Hello, everybody. It's 7:15 in Ireland, so it's time to learn more about Spiritism, or at least share our thoughts with you today. And as usual, today is Tuesday. We do have a special guest, Dr. Vanessa Anseloni. I will read for you her introduction. But before doing this, I'd like to say thank you for everyone who are with us today. And just a quick reminder that we do have these lives on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:15 p.m. Dublin time. And on Sunday at 11:15, we do have our special talk. Okay? So we try to find a lot of people to share the thoughts with you. Does not show that Spiritism, it is something closed, it is something beyond we can imagine, and it's common in everywhere. Okay, so let's begin. And in order to start, I would like to invite everyone to sit comfortably, raise up your thoughts, make connections with your superior spirits, your mentors. Ask them to stay with us, to the spirits from SSI, to enlighten our speaker today, Dr. Vanessa Anseloni, in order to give everyone the best ideas about Spiritism and how to make ourselves a better person and be connected with our makers. So be it. Amen. Okay, so let me read it here. Dr. Vanessa Anseloni, she's a PhD neuroscientist and psychologist. She's the founder of the School of Emotion. She worked 18 years at the University of Maryland. Fifth generation Spiritist, Dr. Anseloni is the founder and former president of the Spiritist Society of Baltimore. And by the way, in 2010, she was here in Ireland. She was part of the foundation of the SSI. So it's someone returning home. She also founded and is the president of Spiritist Society of Virginia and the Spiritist Group of Washington. She is a Spiritist medium, fraternal counselor, and coordinates spiritual treatments and workshops in the U.S. and worldwide. Dr. Anseloni has been translating and coordinating team of translator of Spiritist books among the Among Brothers of the Other Lands and Good News. She is also the co-author of the book The New Generation with Divaldo Franco and the editor-in-chief of the Spiritist magazine. Dr. Anseloni is the founder of the Kardec Radio. And stay tuned, because we will have a lot of good news for you with Kardec Radio. Okay, so let me put up Dr. Anseloni. Thank you very much for being with us.
What a joy. Thank you.
This is us. You know, you were here when we had about 3 or 4 people in the group.
More than that.
More than that.
Yes, it was beautiful. I remember 10 years ago, and it was almost like maybe this time of the year. I think it was like May, maybe 2010. It was beautiful.
So. Yeah.
It was beautiful, and we were moved by the people of goodwill and you guys. And now, 10 years later, the blossoming of the SSI and the works now all over the internet. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Luckily, thank you for the corona. We are reaching overseas, and at the same time, reaching more people than used to have in our meetings.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like people sometimes they don't want to leave home, especially our meetings is at night. So they work all day, and then go home, to go to the spirit center.
Yeah.
It's there is a lazy part between both. And they say, no, I will stay here. No, so now there's no excuse. They can sit in their couch, just turn on the Facebook page, and they are with us.
Yeah, it's amazing. Congratulations, because as the good spirits say, Stephen, it's easy to begin, but it's hard to maintain. So 10 years later, it's really a lot of effort. And we would say goodwill, because that's the theme today, right? We want to talk about goodwill. Many people are talking about the vaccine. What is the vaccine for the coronavirus?
Yeah.
And the spirits say, goodwill, where can we buy it?
Well, that's it. We need to, but we don't do this alone. We have a lot of people, blessed people that God put us in our way, in our pathway, and sometimes is even better than everyone. And so, thank to them, we are here as well, and praying together for this vaccine. But having the vaccine is not just the answer. We need to make this available. So
Yes.
that's the second point. Having the vaccine is one point. Make it available is another point. And make this vaccine reach us is the third point.
Yeah.
So
Meanwhile, internet.
meanwhile, we stay home, safe, talking about spiritism as
Yes.
much as we can. And okay, so we will I will put your screen up, and Dr.
Okay.
Anseloni will talk about that 40-45 minutes, and then usually she will we will open for Q&A. So
Yeah.
if you have any questions, please write it down on the comment box, and after the speech we will try to answer those questions. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
my dear friends, thanks so much. I put
All right.
your screen here.
All
There
right.
you go, and I'm just behind the scenes.
Thank you, Stephen. It's really a joy to be here. It's a joy to see, I can see some old friends joining us here, friends of our friends. Tanya Moore, big hug to you. Thank you for your kindness. Marina Stigo, Mamma Mia, Marina Stigo. We need to talk. You know it. Hello, I see Daisy Gallen. I see Paloma from the Spirit Side of Virginia. Welcome, friends, and welcome everyone. Of course, when we are doing this, as Steven says, if you have questions, we are always here to answer. We are going to share a few thoughts, reflections. You know that what we are saying here doesn't come from us. It comes from above, the Spiritist literature that we have had access, and you have access as well. And you and I together, we can make this moment not only a moment of instruction, but a moment of therapy for our souls. Why we're saying this? Kardec explains in the Genesis that to displace an unhealthy molecule, we need good molecules. It's right there, chapter 14, when he talks about fluids. In popular terms, it's about energy. So you and I have today the opportunity of boosting in us healthy resources that will charge us up. And today, as people are talking about nowadays about the coronavirus, the pandemic, what do we do? Many people saying everybody's going to catch it. I don't think so. Scientifically speaking, you may be exposed to it, but not necessarily be contaminated. Because, first of all, our immune systems are different. We're very similar in many ways, but we have different dynamics. So, even scientifically, it's not possible that everybody's going to be contaminated. So, what is the rule of thumb to take care of our immune system? we need prevention first and foremost. So that means eating healthy, cutting sugars. I know it's hard because we're home and we need a little bit sweet here and there, but trying to cut it down. And carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates that turn into sugar very quickly. Why? Because these create inflammation for the body. And I'm giving some introduction here talking about the physical, because in the Gospel according to Spiritism, we learn that we need to take care of the body and spirit. Being spiritist is about taking care of this preciousness, which is the body. So, diminishing our inflammatory processes by exercising. Exercise doesn't mean you go to the gym because we can't, but walking in nature, doing a walk program through the internet, on YouTube. I recommend, like, you go there, walk with Leslie Sanson, and 15 minutes, 30 minutes is enough. Cleaning the house, hydrating a lot to flush the toxins from our lymphatic system, through our lymphatic system, which is vital for us to maintain health. Sometimes our body is so full of toxins that when it has to fight, it's like a dirty house. You can't stay well. So we need to flush them all out with a lot of hydration. And it's a luxury to have water in this world. You may have easy access, but many people don't. But if you do, make sure you stay strong to help the ones who are weak. But what about emotions? So we are multidimensional. Let's talk about, this is the physical, good hygiene, good eating, good hydration, exercising, now at emotional level. When we come to emotions, we need to declutter, because psychosomatics shows to us that when we are full of resentment, anger, and several other negative emotions, it dampens, decreases the potency of our immune system. And that's a huge problem for us. So it's important to do exercises on forgiveness. And a good reference for you, easy, either you can read books like this besides Spiritism that go straight to psychosomatics, go to Dr. Christine Northrup, go to books by Louise Hay, especially You Can Heal Your Life, or go straight to YouTube on these beautiful affirmation tracks, or you can also affirmations for forgiveness, affirmations for raising self-esteem, for several things, for healing. You will find, and if you can, of course, find the CDs by Divaldo Franco, Joana de Angelis. One is named Health, and the other is Inner Journey. Those CDs are so effective in their visualizations. Neuroscience proves to us that visualizations are ways for us to really give a new address to the GPS of the brain. Now, what about spiritually? What do we do? What do we do? Okay, that's where we come in place here. We need to adjust the north of our lives to prevent. If you study the coronavirus, you're going to see that it's everything to do with anger, long-standing resentment. You can tell about the symptoms. It's an inflammatory disease. It's all about anger. How you're dealing with anger. It's all about, and not necessarily in this life only, it may be many lives. It's about how we deal with life. Do you trust life? Because every respiratory issue that we have is related to our understanding on life. So, are you trusting life or not? To work on these levels, we need to have a reference to adjust ourselves. And that's where Spiritism comes. And that's where we're talking about goodwill. To illustrate before we make a case for it, I want to remind you of a beautiful passage by Amália Domingo Soler in a book that is supposed to be soon published in English. I don't know the name of the book in English, but it was first written in Spanish because she was the most, or one of the most famous and prolific Spiritist writers, Amália Domingo Soler. She wrote this book in Spanish, Hechos que Prueban. Beautiful, and it's available in PDF and on the internet. Or in Portuguese, Reencarnação e Vida. Our friend Luis Rivas, he wrote a book, a short book, 15 cases, illustrated, 15 cases of reincarnation. And we made programs at Kardec Radio based on on those cases. And you can watch at Kardec Radio YouTube channel, 15 cases of past lives. This is one of the cases that talk about the goodwill or lack of goodwill. So there you have it. There was this mother, she had a son, and she was of a high socioeconomic status. And her son, since childhood, became friends with a girl who was of a lower socioeconomic class. But they were very good friends. When they became teenagers, they realized they loved each other, they wanted to date. The mother said, well, she didn't like it. She said, okay, go ahead. And you can date however you like, but one day I'll find you a good woman of our level, and you are going to say goodbye to her and marry the woman that I find. He told the girlfriend, and she was very simple and humble. She said, that's okay. We're going to respect your mom because I don't want your body. I know we are connected from within, so it's okay. She was very resigned. They grew, loving each other, but both respecting the mother. One day, this mother came along and said, enough. Now I'm going to introduce you to the new wife, to your wife, actually, right? You're going to get married to her and you're going to move to another city. They surrendered to the mother's will. The mother didn't care what her son felt. And she said she loved him. You know, I love him, but I don't care how he feels. Very paradoxical. And then what did he do? He simply said, okay, mom. He got married, but they kept corresponding by letter. Years went by, and the mother was still living to an older age. But one day, that man received a letter from the love of his life saying, I am at deathbed. I need you. Please come. Come with me. Let me say the final goodbye. And he did. He traveled to her city. He was the one who witnessed her death. She died in his arms. And funny enough, when he went back, soon after, his mother died. Then this case came to Amália Domingo Soler, and she was curious. She was like, I don't understand. It's as if this mother was like waiting there to make sure that they would never get married. What is up with this story? That's when she consulted the spirit guide of hers, and he replied, you know, the spirit guides, this is a parenthesis for her, for us. The spirit guides who are in our lives, They're constantly helping us. And they said, as St. Augustine puts on the Spirit's book, chapter 9, guardian angels, protecting spirits, it says clear cut that we will be here to answer all of your questions. We're never going to get tired of it. So please ask your questions. Amalia Domingo Soler was very committed to understanding, like Kardec. She needed to investigate the dynamics of life. She was a very wise woman, and the good spirit who was guiding her, he actually came along with an explanation. He said, in a previous life, in a previous life, this couple who loves each other, they used to be married. They used to be of high socioeconomic status. They had a daughter. And they loved this daughter, but against their will, this daughter fell in love with a musician. And musicians at that time were not well recognized. They didn't have a stable payment. So they said, mm-mm-mm. But they did worse than not allowing her to be with him. They vanished with that man, the musician, disappeared. You know what happened? He died. How did the girl stay, the daughter? The daughter understood the parents' concerns for her. She forgave them, but she discarnated out of depression. Later, the parents discarnate, and there is a new agreement in the spiritual realm. They would reincarnate. So the musician who died, who was still angry with the couple, he was to reincarnate, but now as the mother of the story we're talking about. So the musician who was exiled and died reincarnates as a mom. Yes, we can reincarnate in the body of men and women if we need the experiences. He reincarnates in the body of a woman, and he will be the mother of whom? The man who vanished with him. It's her son. The girl he loves used to be the son's wife in previous life. But now she comes back in an expiation, right? Expiating, atoning in low socioeconomic status. So the question for us here is, this mother of this life who does not allow her son to be married with that girl, does she really love him? No. She is indifferent to his feelings. She has no goodwill. But do you think the reincarnatory plan was such? Was it written that she was going to prohibit him? No. She was supposed to work on her goodwill, not be indifferent to the feelings of the son, and not be prejudiced against the socioeconomic status of the girl. But what did she do? She avenged them. Did she avenge them? Did that spirit of the musician reincarnated in the body of a man avenged? Yes. How many parents continue in that mode? Yeah, I love my son and my daughter, but I'm not going to let them do this. I'm not going to let them be a musician. I'm not going to let them be this, an artist, or be a physician. I know people who go through this. And what is this? Avenging. It's vengeance because of lack of goodwill. Goodwill for what? Goodwill for love. In the book Thought and Life by Emmanuel, which is a must for all of us, the British Union of Spiritist Societies has published this book in 2012, and we have studied at Cardiac Radio. You can find a playlist in either SoundCloud as an audio, or if you want to watch the studies, we have it on YouTube or even the Facebook page at Cardiac Radio, and you can watch the program. We have even the audio recordings of the chapters at SoundCloud as well. But it's a must for us. In that book, our dear friend Emmanuel, through Chico Xavier, tells us that the secret to life is the mind, chapter 1. But in chapter 2, he says, we need to learn how to use our will. People talk about free will, and with free will comes two choices: goodwill or ill will. It's when we are indifferent, we're lazy, we're idle, we are in this inertia. But goodwill takes effort. In the book Our Daily Bread by Emmanuel, through Chico Xavier, we have 2 chapters that talk about goodwill and the consequences of one step into goodwill. Goodwill and ill will, 66, 67. If we open the door to goodwill, we find work. And then he says, when you find work, it will lead you to renewal. And then from renewal to everything else, illumination. But ill will, he says, when we simply don't want to make an effort in terms of our will, making choices towards the good, that's what he means. We open the doors of darkness. Tonight, if you watch Cardiac Radio at 11 p.m., but if you can't because you're going to be sleeping, that's okay. You can watch tomorrow on demand. The chapter talks about sleep and the invitation of a beautiful mind of the beyond, asking us to be nurses of goodwill. So I recommend to you the program we're going to watch tonight, so we can work more and more clearly on this beautiful prevention, goodwill. Everything begins of goodwill. No wonder Jesus said to all of us, we revisit with Jesus, peace on earth, glory to God, peace on earth, and goodwill towards humanity. Without goodwill, nothing good can come up. To illustrate a little more, you can also go to Cardiac Radio. In a recent program when we did Immortal Messages, it's on our playlist, and it says about goodwill by the Spirit May May, when she beautifully tells us about this virtue of making choices that are completely liberating. So what is goodwill? So as a psychologist, I want to remind us, we make choices. We have choices. Even science says. Science cannot explain how we make choices in the sense of if it's our brain or something extracorporeal, but we all know that you and I can make choices. And that's something we not necessarily teach our children enough. I will give you an example. When parents turn to their children and say, "You get on my nerves." Okay. When people say that, they are saying to us that they don't have strong will to make a choice different from the choice of somebody else. It's what we call emotional contagion. But you and I know through these teachings that we have choices. But we need to tell ourselves, I have a choice. This person may not be well, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be contaminated by this person. Look at Jesus, our guide and model. He lived at a time of lots of plagues, lots of diseases. Our guide and model never, it's the Christ consciousness, he never got sick. Rewind the tape and you find no account of Jesus getting sick. Why? Because he had goodwill as his vaccine. He was always vibrating higher. In the book Mechanisms of Mediumship by André Luiz through Chico Xavier and Valdo Vieira, we're going to learn that there are two currents of thoughts that we connect at each and every thought, feeling, word, and action. You're thinking, you are producing a mental wave. That mental wave is connecting to a thought current. There are only two types, only two Wi-Fis. That makes it easier, because sometimes you get your phone and your tablet and you're someplace else. Where should I connect? In life, only two Wi-Fis, constructive mental currents or destructive mental currents. Constructive mental currents, what are they? They are of a high vibration. It's only the good. There's nothing neutral. Like, but I'm not doing any bad or any good. I'm just here chilling. I'm sorry. But when we are idle, we're connected to the destructive mental current. And I'll give you an example. Somebody is walking in the street, eating a banana, and they drop, or they really purposefully allow the banana skin to be thrown on the floor. And then you're passing by, you see it, and you say, I didn't do it. I don't have to pick it up. And you continue your way. And then the grandmother that you love comes behind you, doesn't see the banana skin, and she slips on it and breaks a bone and is in the hospital right now during the coronavirus. Can you imagine how tragic? That lack of goodwill is the one that is going to make us responsible for what happened to the grandmother. I'll give you a true story by Kardec. The baker. It's in Kardec Spiritus magazine. He talks about, that time when Victor Hugo was reporting the misery in France and the paradox of people living so wealthy, minority, and the majority living with nothing, so poor and miserable. And there was this woman, Kardec says. Her husband died, and she had to take care of her children at a time in which, if you were not a man, it was very hard for you to have a job. And she had to beg for food and for money. So she stopped by at a bakery and asked the baker, can I have this loaf of bread for my children? And the baker, ill will, he could give them. Come on, what is the greediness here? And he says, no, I'm working hard. Shoo, go away. He turns back, and then she quickly grabs the loaf of bread, but he sees it, and he sends the police her way. The police come to her house in front of her children. She's desperate. They're going to imprison her for a loaf of bread. And what happened? She was feeling irresponsible that she was giving a bad example to her children. So she quickly thinks of a solution, tells the guards, wait a second. I'm going to go in. I'm going to go quickly into the bedroom. And she goes. She doesn't come back. Later on, they open the door. She killed herself. Kardec evokes the spirits to know how come, who is responsible for it all? To our surprise, the high spirits tell at Kardec's meeting that the baker, because he didn't have goodwill to help her, he is responsible for her suicide. That doesn't mean we're going to commit suicide thinking that somebody else who hurt us is going to be responsible. That's not what they mean. They mean that this baker was indifferent, and indifference is a crime. How do we know? The law of love. Goodwill is a step into the flow of God's love. So we need to ask ourselves today. Take a thermometer and measure how we're doing in terms of goodwill. Measure it. How do you know? When your child comes to you and says, I want to play with you, and you say, but not now. See, we need to boost our goodwill. Of course, when you go to bed, that's not time to play. But you know that they come during the day and we're always dismissing. Or a colleague at work says, I don't understand how we do this. Can you explain it to me? And you put it off by saying, oh, but I am overloaded with work. Maybe in a week. So in that self-centeredness, we're not boosting in us the will to do the good. Our will, good will. But oftentimes we make a mistake because of the way we encode life. Neuroscience recently, it was like a few years ago, showed to us, neurophysicists, that the problem in decision making happens at encoding level. What does that mean? It means when there is a stimulus and my brain's processing that stimulus. I'm taking in that code even before I make a decision on what to do with it. So it's, for example, the problems we have in the United States. It's a chronic problem regarding race. Race A, race B, etc. Prejudices. It's the encoding. I look and my brain says, this person belongs to this race. And inside, I have a code that says, I'm not going to open my heart to this race. Prejudice. So before I make a decision, there is a problem. And that's where the good news of Jesus transforms everything. Because Jesus comes to us and says, let's be of goodwill towards everyone. Because at the end of the day, we are all equal. So you look at the person. Oh, they look different. But that's just the clothing. Because deep inside, we're the same. That person is a man or a woman. That person is a child or an elderly person. Irrespective of nationality, which is also an external feature, anything material, Spiritism comes to us because it's the Christ consciousness that comes to our reasoning level and says, we need to be of goodwill towards everyone. Or else, to know this or else, I want to bring you something. In the Spiritist magazine, and you can go to either our app, which is free, spiritistmagazine.org, the website. You can access the app for Android or for Apple. You're going to find issue 42. which has this very page here that I have in front of you. It says, The Half Good. It's a message that came by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier in a book that is not yet translated into English, Book of Hope, O Livro da Esperança. And he talks about half good. And he says, often we come across those who admire the love towards the neighbor and who, without the courage to cut off the roots of self-attachment, indulge in activities of the half good, remaining involved in the movement of evil. So he's talking about the destructive mental current because there's no in between. They say half good, but he says, they lend valuable hand to those who administer, but they demand favors and privileges, causing difficulties. They finance beneficent endeavors, distributing true beneficences, and yet they levy tributes of gratitude, multiplying problems. And they feed the needy and put burdens on the shoulders of the needy, like we do nowadays. We go there, give bread to the needy ones, and take a picture with them, like humiliating them in the internet. Sometimes, right? Forgetting that that's a person, it's not a thing. They welcome the less fortunate children, reserving the yoke of servitude in the family shelter. How many people I know I've seen in the northeast of Brazil, they welcome children from the countryside to come to their city and work in their house while they go to school, but they kind of enslave that person to doing the family duties. So is that really the good? They praise companions so that the same companions may set a throne for them. This is terrible. It's what we call politics. That is not good, he's saying. They protect friends by turning them into puppets and slaves. Let us examine here only the strange attitude of those who do not deny the efficacy of self-denial, but surrender to selfishness, of those who tend to distribute 5 coins to help others with the intention of obtaining 5,000 coins. The minimum good is divine light if carried out without hidden agenda. So he says, in this way, let us be wary of the system of the half good, where evil insinuates itself, poisoning the source of good works. Half-built road causes accidents. Vipers enter the house through breaches. The good asks for total giving, so that the good of all can be manifested in the world. We're bringing this message that you can read in issue 42 of the Spiritist magazine because it talks about encoding differently. Sometimes we say, I'm going to give this pen or pencil to that person because one day that person, if I need, they're going to give me something in return. And then that person takes their things and give to somebody else, and then you're upset with that person. So the good that we thought we did wasn't good at all. It actually complicates life quite a bit. And that happens in families. Parents who have children expecting that they are going to take care of themselves when they get older. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's not even love. It's slavery. Because then you're imprisoned to the parents' ideals. And God teaches us to let people free, love freedom. We need to detach from our expectations. Detach and give without personal interest. That personal interest is already in so many ways a hidden agenda that is evil. It's not the good at all. Oh, but I gave them food and I gave them shelter. But you were always expecting something in return. To add a little more to our story, we would recommend that you read the book by Leon Denis. After death, he talks about the choices of our will and the role of reincarnation. And he mentions to us something that is in true connection with the Spirit's book, question 121, freedom to choose our pathways. We're free, and the merits of that choice is ours. Maybe the world is not going to understand your choices, but stay put and be courageous, because what the world thinks, not necessarily, is what is right. Read Emmanuel's books from 2,000 years ago, 50 years later, Hail Christ, Renunciation, Paul and Stephen, and you're going to see that in those books, we have the secret to being courageous in the right choices of our life, being of goodwill. Like Ananias, when Jesus comes to him and says, Ananias, I want you to go to that inn and see Saul of Tarsus because he's blind and he needs help. Ananias is like, but he's the one that kills all Christians. He said, I know, but I need you to help. Ananias fills his lungs with the air of goodwill and goes. He comes, knocks at the door, and says, Jesus sent me here. And he operates on the eyes of Saul of Tarsus. And he can see again. What if Ananias didn't have goodwill and courage? Where would we be? We wouldn't know the teachings that came through Saul of Tarsus, because it's a teamwork effort. So you and I are being called today to boost our goodwill, to make choices towards the good. And the key to it all is observing the environmental influences. It's question and answer 122 of the Spirit's book. Because the spirits say imperfect spirits seek to involve and dominate others. But you can raise above it in prayer, counting on the good spirits who will give you strength and will give me strength, will give us strength to make the choices that are good for us, immortally speaking. Whether people understand your choices or not, again, it does not matter. As Mother Teresa used to say, at the end of the day, it's between God and us, between God and them, never between them and us. How long will spirits be influencing us towards our choices? Until we develop our self-control. For many lives, it's normal that you are here. And Stephen said, if we have the physical meeting, people say, but I want to be home because it's more comfortable. Now we are home and we have the meeting here, and people are not turning it on because now they have more time to decide, to relax, and they forgot. So you see, the spirits that don't want us to progress, they are always playing a factor, and we need goodwill to overcome it. Always. There will be no day for many lives. Until we reach pure level, we'll always be influenced to make choices, either towards the good or towards the not so good. So, as we march towards this end, I have to say that above everything else, if we want to be right now vaccinated against the emotions that are happening in the world, fear, despair, and even boost your immune system, be of goodwill. To wrap up, I'll tell you a story that is Christ conscious. I have to say, it's Christ conscious. Christ is not the one in the church. Jesus Christ is not the one that is restricted to a religious sect. He is a model for us of being humanity, a human being. He's not an angel. When he came, he taught us real humanity. Read that chapter in the book Living Spring by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, Real Humanity. He says to us to be of goodwill. And here is a true story. Stephen, from the book Paul and Stephen, the first Christian martyr. His father, Joshadeb, was a good Jewish man, but he was very indignated by the Roman Empire and their abuses, like many people are feeling nowadays with their particular governments in the world. Unlike him, his son Stephen and his daughter Abigail were very resignated. They were calm because they learned from the mother, from the scriptures, that only God only allows what we need to be educated. But a tragic event is going to happen in their lives because of this indignation by their father. Lack of goodwill in understanding the low level order of the Roman guards at the time and the Roman Empire in general. He wants to make justice with his own hands. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, just in codes here. But you can read this book. It's a phenomenal book for summertime. Anytime, but now we're entering summer. It's a good read. And there you have in this book, Joshadab exposes his family. They are imprisoned. The father, Joshadab, is murdered in front of them. The daughter, Abigail, is sent to the streets with nobody to care for her. And Stephen is sent to slavery. What had he done? Nothing. Not in that life. Did he become rebellious? No. He entered the ship of slavery and became one of the slaves. And in that slavery, Emmanuel describes that many colleagues of him were rebellious, and he was always peacemaking, very calm. One day, a Roman authority is on that ship, but sick. The captain asks for that slave who is calm, easygoing. He calls our friend Stephen. Stephen comes. Remember, that Roman authority is sick and it's contagious, like the coronavirus. But is he concerned? He said, no. God wants me to be here to take care of this man. Sergius Paulus. He gives of himself day in, day night. Day in and out, like night and day. He's taking care. The man recovers. And guess what? Stephen got sick. And now you may be thinking, how come his goodwill was a vaccine? Wait. They were traveling from Corinth to Jerusalem. Sergius Paulus says, please Don't throw him out in the ocean to kill him. I owe him my life. Just allow him to be in the next harbor. And then we go. And that's what happened. He was sick. They left him by a certain harbor. Somebody took him to where? To the house of Peter the disciple. Stephen is kindly taken care by Peter and his team. He recovers. He comes to know that the Messiah that he awaited from the scriptures had already come. He opens his heart to help the ones in need at the house of the way with Peter and others. He becomes the forefront man, the spokesperson, healing. He has healing mediumship. And that's when Saul of Tarsus got to know of this Jewish man who was preaching the teachings of the carpenter. And the rest is history. You read in the book. But what we want to pay attention here is if our dear Stephen hadn't used his goodwill to take care of that man who was sick, he wouldn't end up meeting the Christians of the time and helped all of us to come to know of the Christ consciousness. Because it took Stephen to make Paul of Tarsus, who he became to be, and to lead these teachings into the Gentile world. And I say this kindly. So here is just how we're going to stop, Stephen and friends, for questions. We could talk and say more examples, but we would like to hear our friends and see what they want to say or ask regarding the topic.
Wow, what a lesson! Thank you very much. It's so touch and profound. To be honest, and it came across with our topic last Sunday. I did a speech about the reason of faith.
Yeah.
So
there you
we
go.
are connected.
We're connected. Synchronicity.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, guys. So if you do have any question, please write it down.
Let me see. Anybody has any question?
Let's give some minutes.
Of course.
Again, everybody wants the free will, but nobody wants to be responsible for the actions. Some minutes.
Of course.
Again, everybody wants the free will, but nobody wants to be responsible for the actions. Some minutes.
Of course.
Again, everybody wants the free will, but nobody wants to be responsible.
Oh, sorry. I don't know.
I can.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what happened here. I was just opening another. I apologize for another tab. But is there a question, Stephen?
No. We didn't have any question here. We don't have any direct questions. No.
Let's see. Yeah, I can see beautiful friends here. So I want to remind everybody, you can go to thespiritistmagazine.org and read the 49 issues there. And the one that we mentioned, issue 42, about the Gahaf Good. And if people want the reference for May May's message on goodwill, just go to Cardiac Radio's Facebook page. Soon it will be it's already on SoundCloud too, and Spotify and other systems to read or to listen to that message on goodwill.
Yeah, I do have a question. How do we know we are using the free will in the right way?
Yeah. Mamma mia, you're friends with Kardec, because this is a good question like the ones he did. Right?
Yeah.
How do we know? I would say, Stephen, Stephen, there is like this inner thermometer, our feelings, because you can tell when you make a good decision that you are at peace. You may feel the pressure coming from outside, but you can sleep well.
Mm.
And usually our good decisions, they usually come with sacrifices of the ego, when we think less of ourselves and more of the general good, you know? So sometimes people are going to look at us and say, I don't understand why you quit that job. If you had that job, people would think this and that and the other. But I say, but I did. And I'll give you an example because you and your family go through similar issues. I remember when after 18 years at the University of Maryland, I had to make a big decision. Virginia was 2 years old. And in the US, we don't have family. Like in your case, too, you don't have family there.
Mhm.
And I saw this little girl sprouting. And I said, I talked to Carlos and I said, my husband, I said, how can I travel 80 miles a day, more, 160, because it's 80 miles each way, and work and leave her here with somebody else whom I don't know,
Yeah.
just because I need my job or because of money? So he said, don't worry, go ahead. If you want, I will, I'm here. And I said, I'll open my flexible business, but I can't be in this full-time job and have somebody else take care of this precious child of God. It's a tough decision. Many of my colleagues, Stephen, looked at me and said, I can't believe you're going to do this after all you've worked. And I said, guys, can't explain to you.
Yeah.
But we spiritists,
Well, at least we're trying. So we do have here. It's not a question, but I can just say Tanya is making an affirmation. What came to mind as you were speaking was goodwill can at times mean giving people the benefit of the doubt and avoid getting into negative loop in terms of self-talk and actual talk to avoid entering into anger and resentment.
yeah, beautiful. Wow.
Tanya, you got the message.
Yeah, you said it all. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my dear friend, we do have a great talk. A lot of people saying thank you so much for your
Thank you,
amazing
everybody. Thank
speech. Very well explained. So you
you.
knock everybody down without any questions. Like you
It's
reach.
spiritism. You know it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But thank you very much for your time, and thank you for these words. Also, if you could say where they can find you on correct cardiac radio, so please feel free to say where they can find more
oh,
about
I
not just you, but about the spiritism as well in English.
yeah, I mean, there are so many resources now. I would say cardiac radio is the pathway. There is an app, 24 hours, you can listen to it. And there are the live programs. We have cardiac radio on YouTube. We have cardiac radio on SoundCloud, Spotify. If you have the Amazon Alexa, you can say play cardiac radio and you're going to listen to cardiac radio there. So it's everywhere, 24 hours. And you have the live programs that are happening every day, at least 5, 6 times a day. And the Spiritist magazine. And I want to highlight the Spiritist magazine because of all the Spiritist books that we have, and I say mainly, it's about Kardec's, Leon Denis, and Chico Xavier's literature, including Divaldo Franco's. It's going to take a while for people to have it all translated, but at the Spiritist magazine, we try to find the treasure. It's like treasure hunt. We translate and boom, publish there. So you have these beautiful immortal messages. They are not only, they're half original articles, half translated that come from this treasure box that we have, right, Stephen?
Yeah.
So I would recommend read the Spiritus magazine. It's so short, so easy. It's digital. If you want the PDF, you can have the PDF. And if you want them to deliver to your home, you can order through the website and they deliver to your home too. It's about $10, $12 per issue because we are in partnership with HP MagCloud. So I would say the magazine, the radio, and if you want to write directly to us, go to cardiacradio@gmail.com. We'll be there.
Okay, good. And can I abuse a little bit more? Can you do our final prayer?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Let us pray. Let us pray. All right. So let us all feel this beautiful opportunity of the togetherness that we have right now. Visualize a beautiful lavender field. Let us visualize lavender flowers and a beautiful field of lavender flowers. And you walking in this field of lavender flowers, breathing in the perfume of calmness. Visualize the rays of healing light that come from the very purple flowers of lavender, enveloping you in serenity. As Professor Euripides Barçanufo said, serenity, so essential to our lives. Let us breathe in and out in serenity. And raise our thoughts to the Creator. Dear Mother, Father God, we thank you. Feeling the invitation of goodwill, let us raise our thoughts and connect with you, dear Lord. May our homes feel this invitation and pacify. May our work relationships feel the serenity that comes from your loving providence. As we together unite our thoughts and feelings to emanate healing vibrations multiplied to the infinite by you, dear God, enveloping all the leaders of the world in goodwill, all the houses of the world, making parents feel their call to prioritizing their mission as parents, all educators, embracing their mission of education in your name and love. We pray that the world step towards the wisdom of making the choice of the good, forgetting about our hidden agendas and personal interest, and prioritizing the general good. May we stay under your guidance, feeling your protection as you grant us the permission to close the sacredness of this meeting with the Spirit Society of Ireland and friends, and so be it.
Okay,
Thank you.
lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, so guys, thank you, Vanessa, thank you. I just ask you to wait a little bit more. I will wrap up here. So thank you, guys. Don't forget, next Tuesday at 7:15 we'll be here again. Okay. Thank you. Stay safe and have a blessing week.
Bye, friends.